Welcome to the Soul of the Everyman on ArtistFirst World Radio. All past shows are archived. You can find them at ArtistFirst.com. If you have a question or comment for this show or any show, you can send it to us at dj@ArtistFirst.com. And now here they are, your hosts, Margaret and Michael Lyons.
All right, man, you're up.
Thank you very much, Z-Man, and welcome. Welcome to the Soul of the Everyman. And tonight, our topic is going to be about judgment.
Man, I feel judged right now. This is so awesome. Well, this is going to be a great show. Yes, folks. On the Soul of the Everyman tonight, we are going to be talking about judgment, and in my best judgment, that was the finest opening we've ever had.
Oh. All righty.
And you know, I've been married a long time. Any case, folks, yes, tonight's show is going to be about judgment, and two things that are interesting about judgment are how different people can what different meanings people assign to that particular word.
Right.
Everyone wants to have good judgment. You know, good judgment is supposed to be a virtue. You know, when you're young, you can be said to have bad judgment, or you know, if you're having fun, you can be saying that, you know, I'm exercising my bad judgment. But the other coin, the other sort of side of the coin of judgment is the part of it which has to do with judging. And when you say to people, "Don't judge me," you know, or don't pass judgment on me unless you've, you know, been where I've been or done what I've done, or you know, walked a mile in my shoes, it's very much of a negative connotation.
Mm-hmm. I'd say in this particular environment that we're in right now, that word judgment is loaded with a lot of emotional
charge.
Yeah, an emotional charge. And that is what I'd say we need to be quite aware of, because when you use the word judgment, you know, just in general, at least what I remember being taught about judgment and growing up is like there are various sides to that word. The ability to be able to take into consideration whatever it is in front of you, your choices, and then try to make a good judgment or your best call on it. And it had a lot to do with being able to be all right in your heart with it. Even though there was a lot of arguments going back and forth in your head when you're weighing how to make this decision, it really comes down to where's your heart in the midst of all this? And that's not really what we're seeing nowadays. Everybody is just sort of spewing. And spewing is so dangerous because people were more concerned about offending other people. You know, we don't want to be. But offense now is being used as a bludgeoning tool. You know, and they're using judgment as, well, you're judging me. You know, this is my da-da-da-da-da. It's like, well, it has nothing to do with it. What happened to discussion? Just discussion without an emotional charge. And it doesn't seem as if people in general are realizing they have emotional baggage attached to their reaction to what they claim is a judgment. You know, they put that reaction in with what is actually happening, whether it's a discussion or not.
Yeah, I think we have to we've kind of broached it in a number of different ways. We have to kind of unpack it because there's that's the kind of the crux of the whole matter. What you just said, the emotional baggage which has become associated with both judging and being judged, really has, although the word is there, it's a common word that both share, and very little to do with the other side of judgment, which is really gathering information, then using whatever store of wisdom or knowledge that you have, as well as perhaps your own thought processes, to make a decision. Because judgment and decision are very closely aligned. When you decide on a course of action, what you've done, hopefully, is considered the alternatives and made a decision. You've taken a judgment. And I think where the two get conflated, and maybe in the third way get conflated, but where the two get conflated is when people feel that they're being unfairly judged, or that you're instead of your judgment being based on the facts, it's based on an opinion. And I think what you were talking about, where all the emotional baggage comes in, is part of it is what right, what right do you have to judge me? And the anger part of it, if we push that away, you can also say, well, we all fall short in the eyes of God. We all are sinners. We all do bad things. And no one of us should perhaps hold themselves out as being, it's the old, telling your neighbor about the splinter in his eye when you first remove the log from your own. The whole idea is that you're putting yourself out as being, pure as the driven snow, and then pointing to others and saying how evil they are, is often a hypocritical position. And so the emotional baggage comes back that the reaction is, well, who are you to judge me? But you're absolutely right. The third part of it is the unpacking of it is that it's been turned around and turned into a bludgeon to silence any sort of dissension. It becomes, instead of just saying, well, who are you to judge me? It's like, I'll do whatever I want,
right? And
you just shut up and take it because, you have no right to tell me what to do.
Right.
And I think that position is also just as wrong as the position that says I'm pure as white as the driven snow and I have a reason to judge. I can judge you. So those are the emotional kind of bastions or sides of this. And the real aspect though is not only that people don't have the right to tell you what to do, or that people think that they have the right to tell you what to do, but they I think, and this is where the emotional baggage really comes in, is the assumption on their part is what drives people kind of nutty, kind of crazy. It also gets bound up with authority and with power issues.
Right. And it has so much to do with feeling threatened, because those responses, especially the emotional ones that come to the point of almost violence, if not violence, are the ones that feel as if they're feeling as if their identity is being taken away from them. How dare you take away what I believe I am, kind of thing. And that's not what was the focus of the discussion or what was being done.
Well, and I just want to, I know we kind of already talked about this a bit, but at the end of the day, you need judgment. You need discernment. You need the ability to be able to take in information and use your wisdom and use your logic and use your best thought processes to make decisions. But when you're using that either as we mentioned earlier about basically using it as a way to segregate or a way to isolate, it becomes a power play from that point of view. I'm going to judge who is good and who is not, who is in and who is out. And then the other negative, the other side of the thing is when you use it as a pushback to silence, a bludgeon to silence by, in essence, telling people that they can't judge you. You have no right to judge me. There's the middle ground of that. The actual middle ground of judgment is solidly founded on how societies work and how people interact with each other. But all that emotional, all the emotional charge is largely used either in offense, to silence somebody's opinion, or to, like you were saying, isolate people, to push people out of the mainstream or push people out of your circle. Isolate's not the exact same word. It's the I can't think of it.
Separation.
It's more than that. It's when it's basically saying that these people are not. It's almost like making them not human or not worthy of consideration. In essence, subsuming their right to be human with yours.
Right. Right. I understand. In other words, they are less than, so you don't even get the right to have a say.
Exactly.
And that's interesting because that's exactly what the judgment call that people respond to are reacting to and trying to control is who has a say. And as long as you say what we believe, then we give you a voice. But if you're not saying what we believe, we're going to shut you down because we are the ones who are going to decide.
Right, we're the ones who judge.
We are the ones who judge. And they won't use the word judge. They're saying that, well, this is this. And it's very much, very high school. This is the popular clique. This is the ones that, this group is where a lot of the kids want to go to because this is blah, 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 blah. And you're looking at it going, there's nothing really there to offer. Contributing what to the group?
Well, and to back that up a little bit, it really comes down to access, right? You set up this sort of artificial exclusion. Here are the people who we have decided, and we are the group who decides are within fit within our little walls, fit within our little enclave, and then the outsiders, the outskirts, the ones who are pushed to the margins, either of society or of the high school clique, are the ones who can be safely prejudged, can be safely denigrated, can be safely mocked because they don't count. You see, that's where you get the emotional baggage of judgment, and where you have both the people who rail against that, which is sometimes correct and sometimes not, and the people who, if you're part of the in group and you're deciding what is in and what is not, who's hot and who's not, then you get to get all the benefits of being a judgeor and not a judgee. So the key here, and I guess to kind of go back to the prosecution of the argument we started with, is that the word judgment gets judged a lot. So when you hear the word judgment, it literally evokes or it causes people to take up sides, either for or against it.
Yeah, because it's a power issue.
It's a power issue. It's a third chakra issue. It's
a power issue, and it is intimately connected with authority, or what they believe is authority. When you're young, you don't realize that those in-groups, are being given automatic authority by everyone else. They have no authority unto themselves. It's being given in that general direction, and it's difficult at when you're so young, because you're still establishing your own identity. So to be able to be aware of what's actually going on, because the emotions that rise up, especially in that age group, are so extreme.
Intense, yeah.
Yeah. And they're not necessarily shown how to handle what they're feeling. And you need that to be able to mature your way through. It's going to take years to really get a handle on what you're feeling, to be able to see and understand, to distinguish between the feelings. And then how do you navigate through those that ocean of emotion that rises up?
The ocean of emotion. That is so awesome. Never mind, we just can't get stuck there, but that was really cool. I like that. And I think, just kind of go back and kind of recenter ourselves on this topic. We put a quote up on the website, and all of you folks who are just dying to know what's on the website, you should probably go there and take a look. It might be up by now. And if it's not, just keep refreshing until it comes. It'll take, who knows how long. But we put up a quote there from the Dalai Lama, and it really was, I think, sort of seminal. And I think what we might do is just broach that part of the topic and then take a short break after that. But when we talk about love and judgment are oftentimes also used in similar or in the same situation. And what I'll just put up there, and then we'll come back and talk about it a little bit, is that oftentimes true love, is based on not judgment, but on the sort of the absence of judgment. If you look at it from the point of view of unconditional love, the quote of that, the part of that that's without judgment, is the unconditional part. And oftentimes love and who gets loved and how they get loved is intimately tied in with judgment. Who's good, who's hot, who's not. So let's take a little break, and then we'll come back and talk more about love and judgment.
Okay.
There is a Reaper is the story of 5-year-old Christopher Aaron and his life-changing struggle with leukemia. Winner of both the Indy Bragg Medallion as well as the reader's favorite silver medal for memoir, There is a Reaper has more than 100 Amazon book reviews and a 5-star rating. It has been described as life-changing, spiritual, a must-read. Just released on Audible and iTunes, this memoir is also available in paperback and on Amazon Kindle for only 99 cents. Get your copy of this life-changing memoir today.
The Fat Man Gets Out of Bed is the latest book from Michael Lyons, the award-winning author of There is a Reaper. Featuring 13 original stories, this wide-ranging collection has everything. Forbidden love, gods versus demigods, weird invading aliens, sexy seductive artificial intelligence, and unusual passion between the living and the dead. All set amidst fantastic worlds of pain and loss and boundless joy. From the sublime to the macabre to the bittersweet, The Fat Man Gets Out of Bed will leave you breathless with laughter, brimming with tears, trembling with suspense. Available now on Amazon.com, Google Play, iTunes, Kobo, and fine e-tailers everywhere.
You are listening to The Soul of the Everyman on the ArtistFirst Radio Network. Back to your hosts, Michael and Margaret Lyons.
Thank you very much, C-Man. And we are being harshly judged tonight. Well, I'm perhaps not harshly judged, but tonight's show, thank you very much for rejoining us in the second half hour of the Soul of the Everyman. This is going to be slightly less than a half an hour because we've had a couple of hiccups The electrical gods have been against us tonight, but we've been talking about judgment and how that word and that concept has a lot of both emotional baggage as well as relationships to how people interact with each other and how societies interact with each other. And at the bottom of the last segment, we were talking a little bit about how love is also tied up with judgment, and in the sense that pure love or true love is often described as being unconditional, and unconditional is just another word for not judged. When you truly are expressing pure love, there is nothing you can do, and it's the same way that there's nothing we can do to deserve the love of our Creator. There's nothing that we can do that can stop that love from coming in. There's no part of us that's being judged worthy, and there's nothing we can do to make ourselves unworthy. That's the true, unconditional, unjudgmental love.
Right. No, love that is unconditional. And I believe that the Dalai Lama's quote is, he was asked, "What is love?" And his response is, "Love is the absence of judgment." And when you think about it, you realize that the expansiveness of that kind of love, it means that forgiveness is a given. It's a baseline of your existence.
Mm.
He stresses kindness all the time. And it is based in realizing that because of our human part down here, we are completely flawed.
Mm.
Everyone is completely flawed. And you cannot put one person above another in any way, shape, or form, because each one of us has flaws. Now, it doesn't mean that you abide in the flaws or dwell on your flaws. It means that you understand at your core that another life, another human life is standing before you and deserves space to be there. You can't keep closing down the space up for that other person if you're going to be human, because human beings need space for relationship. And that openness is not something that you always see. Okay? It doesn't mean that you accept everything that's going on in your life, all the bad stuff. There are things you must take steps against, say no to. But what he's talking about is understanding at the core of a human being is a spirit aspect that loves unconditionally. And that is what their enlightenment is talking about, to be able to expand that. But yes, unconditional love is as a human being, we cannot conceive of an unconditional love. How can I love that unlovable person? He is a
one of those. Mm.
One of those. And you look at it like, I need an awful lot of help.
Well, and I think that's exactly it. We unpack this a little bit. It is an unattainable ideal, the unconditional love for human beings. It's something which we experience only through the agency, let's say, of Creator, of Spirit. We don't deserve what we have, and we can't in any way be judged worthy. So the Dalai Lama and many other great spiritual leaders have noted this and say basically that our job here isn't to exclude and to judge. We do all those things great. We're really good at excluding and judging. Human beings got the T-shirt.
We got that down.
We got that down.
We got it down.
Our job is to emulate as well as we can, and it's so difficult, but as well as we can, the fact that none of us are worthy, and that we shouldn't put ourselves forward to say who is worthy and who is not. That's not what you're trying to get to. You're not trying to get to the point where you can get to say who gets what and who doesn't get what.
You don't kick someone who's down.
Or realize that you are just as worthy of being kicked, and that other person is just as unworthy as you are unworthy, or you are just as worthy as they are worthy. So the Dalai Lama's main point is that kindness extended to the other human being is to see their point of view, to see that their humanity is as equally flawed and as equally wonderful and perfect as yours. We're both the same. We're different, but we're the same in that regard. So the emotional baggage of judgment and the hypocriticalness of, if that's a word, of judgment is when people put themselves and say, well, I'm better, or more, I am more than you, you are less than me, and then therefore I get to judge you. And the other, who is being judged less, very rightfully is angry about that. But neither emotion is good. The being angry at being judged and feeling empowered to judge are both wrong. What the Dalai Lama says is right. Stop judging. Just stop it. Stop that. Stop judging and realize that you don't judge lest ye be judged. Judge not lest ye be judged is the perfect sentiment.
Yes, because as you abide in, because that's an energetic right there. When you're judging, when you've got some emotional impact tied to it, some reaction or whatever, you're actually living in that energy. You're living in that moment of that's not right. I want to get it back. This anger. And when you do that, you're actually living in that, and living in that means that you yourself are calling to you judgment. You will be judged as you judge. So if you can take steps in a participation that doesn't have that emotional baggage attached to it, it's just discernment. It's not judgment with a capital J, where you think you're speaking from some sort of authority. Right.
And that's often it, is people who like to judge like to do it because it gives them a sense of power and authority.
Yeah. If you can be honest and say, hey, you know what? I'm doing this because I think it makes me feel important. That's the first step. It's like, okay.
And if you realize that, you can also realize suddenly that how empty that is.
Exceedingly empty. Exceedingly empty. You're opening a wound within yourself that realizes it has a very deep hole. And when you are judging someone else as unworthy, you open up that wound of unworthiness in yourself. And the soul cries out. And when it cries out, unfortunately, some people, they lash out at whoever happens to be in front of them. It's like that unworthiness hole. They just want to, I want to destroy that, but they begin, what is that called, transferring all that emotion on some poor soul outside of you who's going through the same bloody thing.
Right.
I don't know of one person really who doesn't have that emptiness there. You unless you go and realize that being human means that you have that hole.
And to some extent, that's what the Dalai Lama and others are saying, is that realize that the lack that you feel is the lack everyone feels, and the anger that you feel at being judged is the anger everyone feels at at being judged, and it's better to neither create the whole nor rail at the judgment, but to do neither. Just to say, I am, you are, we are both human, and we are both flawed, and we are both undeserving of the graces that are coming into us, and so we should just be happy and use what we've been given, perception.
Well, going into being happy is a big step for most people. Okay, just they have to be able to make room first. They have to make room first in order to give space for the ability to see that. You have to be present and grounded, and to be able to open your eyes and see what's going on. You can't. It's not just just do this. It's like no. It's so complex because it's so intimately tied with who you are that we have a tendency to run away or look away from things that give us some type of pain. And this is a very painful point when someone is looking at that unworthiness gap inside of them.
Yes, perhaps what I meant was content more than I meant happy in the sense of because the content is just to accept who you are and who the other is, and not necessarily try to judge or change who they are. And yes, you're right. I mean, very few people. It is a step to get there, from there to happiness.
Yes.
And sometimes people have a lot of trouble getting to that step. But the very first step is acceptance, and instead of using judgment as a bludgeon or as sort of a way to exclude, is to use it as it's supposed to be used, to discern, to perceive, to get into a state where you just note, and then you let it go. And this can be meditation can help with this as well. So I guess we've come near to the end of another episode of The Soul of the Everyman. And this one was an abbreviated one, folks, so don't judge us. But we'd like to just say thank you very much for listening.
Yes, and have a good evening.